So tell me, Mr. Favre, do you think it's acceptable to divert critical funding away from disadvantaged women who need it the most?
Well, first of all, I have no knowledge of President Trump's policies in regards to that, and I'm not directly involved.
Well, the question is a simple yes or no. Do you think it's acceptable to divert TANF funds away from women who need it the most? Thank you. Mr. Favre, you're testifying before this committee today amid allegations of fraud, and you are alleged to have used funding meant for low-income families to help fund a volleyball center at the University of Southern Mississippi. And as you can see behind me, these are texts between yourself and Nancy New, who pled guilty to similar charges back in 2022. You've denied knowledge of TANF's stated purpose, although it's frankly in the name, temporary assistance for needy families. And you've also stated in your testimony that you want to help protect TANF, presumably from people like yourself who use it for unrelated spending. I'm going to set aside that the fact that not knowing the law, so not having knowledge of a law is not an excuse for breaking it, and that's a concept that my son even understood at 10 years old. You stated that you are here today to encourage the federal government to increase oversight for the TANF program. But sitting here today, I don't know that you possess any credentials that make you any kind of expert in TANF or how funds are allocated. You've never worked with TANF funds or you've never received them. So I'm going to direct my next question to somebody who is actually a subject matter expert on TANF.
Under the House Republican majority, this committee has been laser focused on helping Americans in need, and in particular doing so by helping them build stable, prosperous lives through work. That is the very core of our work to improve our welfare programs, including TANF. We took an important first step to reform TANF, direct cash assistance, in the Fiscal Responsibility Act. For the first time in 2 decades, Congress acted to close loopholes states were using and strengthen work requirements. Unfortunately, TANF non-assistance, which makes up 77% of the spending in the program, has been undermined by rampant waste, fraud, and abuse, meaning fewer dollars are going to services for those who really need them. For example, in the state of Mississippi, $77 million in misused TANF funds led to multiple criminal convictions for embezzlement by state officials and nonprofit contractors. The victims aren't just taxpayers, but also the Americans in dire straits who need help. That's why one of our priorities must be restoring integrity and accountability to TANF. Republicans and Democrats on this committee have both expressed concerns about the ongoing fraud and questionable use of funds in this program, and they've introduced legislation. Some of the Democrat policies are not that far from Republican policies. And the Biden-Harris administration has proposed Republican ideas like reporting improper payments and targeting TANF to families earning less than 200% of the federal poverty line. I believe there is room for bipartisanship, but my priority as chairman is to make sure in our push for reform, we don't turn welfare into a mechanism that traps people in poverty or to lose the ability to tailor programs to the unique needs of local communities and families. We are also joined by someone whose experience I think can help shed additional light on the need to pursue reforms to states' ability to spend TANF. Mr. Brett Favre, we look forward to hearing his insights into how weak federal oversight and self-dealing state officials contributed to Mississippi's case. He saw how embezzlement and mismanagement hurt the people whom welfare is supposed to help. We want to thank you for coming here and using your name and platform to draw attention to the need for stronger federal safeguards in TANF spending to ensure what happened in Mississippi doesn't happen again in other places.
Chairman Smith, Ranking Member Neal, members of the committee, my name is Brett Favre, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to testify here today. I was born and raised in Mississippi. My parents were school teachers. I played football for Southern Miss and professionally for 20 years and was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Since I retired from football, I've engaged in various business enterprises, endorsed products I believe in, and with my wonderful wife, Deanna, helped many charities in my home state and elsewhere. Throughout my career, there were many highs and many lows. Those lows helped me find out who I really am. They taught me to persevere, overcome challenges, and succeed. But the challenges my family and I have faced over the last 3 years because certain government officials in Mississippi failed to protect federal TANF funds from fraud and abuse and are unjustifiably trying to blame me, those challenges have hurt my good name and are worse than anything I faced in football. When this started, I didn't know what TANF was. Now I know TANF is one of the country's most important welfare programs to help people in need. This is a cause dear to my heart and to Deanna's, as we have our own Far for Hope Foundation to help disadvantaged children. In 2020, Mississippi claimed that $77 million in TANF funds had been misspent, resulting in criminal convictions of state officials and people running a nonprofit which had received these funds. This nonprofit had a long-standing partnership with the state and an impeccable reputation. Mississippi also brought a civil lawsuit against numerous individuals, including me. A gag order bars the parties from discussing the specifics of the lawsuit. Instead, I'm here to share what I've now seen up close about how reforms are needed to stop the misspending of TANF funds. Even before I was sued, when I was informed that the nonprofit appeared to have improperly used TANF funds, I returned to the state the funds I had received. Even though I had provided services to the nonprofit, and even though I knew, and I know, I had done nothing wrong, I returned the funds, no questions asked. I had also offered to help raise funds for a new volleyball facility at Southern Miss, the one that's gotten all the publicity. I wanted to help my alma mater and benefit the community. Southern Miss introduced me to the nonprofit to see if they could help with the funding. I had no way of knowing that there was anything wrong with how the state funded the project, especially since it was publicly approved by many state agencies and multiple attorneys, including the Attorney General. Sadly, I also lost an investment in a company that I believed was developing a breakthrough concussion drug I thought would help others. And I'm sure you'll understand why it's too late for me, because I've recently been diagnosed with Parkinson's. This is also a cause dear to my heart. Recently, the doctor running the company pleaded guilty to taking TANF money for his own use. I believe that I got swept up in a civil lawsuit at the instigation of State Auditor Shad White, an ambitious public official who decided to tarnish my reputation to try to advance his own political career. Even after he applauded me for returning the funds and said there was no evidence that I knew TANF funds were involved. And strangely enough, Shad did not bring the TANF misuse issue to the Department of Justice, but to a local DA, who himself is now under federal and criminal investigation. He has profited from his position as someone with firsthand knowledge of the Mississippi case, but when my lawyers wanted to question him under oath, he swore he had no personal knowledge of the events. I've now sued Shad for defamation in a case upheld by the court. Most recently, the Mississippi Attorney General has even sued Shad for exceeding his powers and going after me. I've also learned that the state, believe it or not, is using TANF funds to pay outside private lawyers Adam Stone and Katie Pickett of the Jones Walker firm to sue me and others.
Mr. Favre, when we previously spoke, you said something that really stuck out to me. You said before all of this, you didn't know what TANF money was. And it's quite interesting. Right before this hearing, I was with a group of lawmakers, and they asked, why is Brett Favre testifying before your committee today? And I said to talk about TANF and the abuses in TANF. And that member of Congress asked me, what is TANF? That member of Congress, what is TANF? And I had to explain, it was a welfare program that was created in 1996. And so I imagine that 99% of Americans don't know what TANF is. And for them, that statement would ring very true. And so as this committee considers reforms to the program, can you tell us when you first learned what TANF was, and since going through all of this, the concerns you have about the program as it exists today?
Yes. April, maybe May of 2020, I was actually on a golf course with my brother and 3 other friends, and our phones started going crazy, and people were asking about Shad White, who I had no idea who Shad White was, and said, "What'd you do to him? He's saying, that you are involved in TANF money," and I had no idea what TANF was, had never heard of it, and was completely caught off guard by this press conference. And if not knowing what TANF was, and later finding out that it is welfare money, I returned the money ASAP, no questions asked. And no one from Shad White's office ever came to me prior to this press conference that he held and asked me any details or specifics in regards to my involvement. So we filed a defamation lawsuit against Shad White, and in that lawsuit, his top chief auditor, in her deposition most recently, said that the truth, finding out the truth, was quite frankly, was not important. She just wanted to close out her audit, so she didn't do any, it's unbelievable, but that's when I found out, was 2020.
We sit in this hearing today to address a critical problem with public assistance in this country, a problem that's been exacerbated by one of our witnesses here today who is facing allegations of misusing TANF funds for corporate gain. Mr. Favre, right off the bat, I would like to ask you about these funds. A Mississippi state audit found that about $5 million in TANF resources were reallocated to pay for the construction of a volleyball facility at your alma mater, a facility that you were very interested in seeing come to fruition. An additional $1.7 million was directed to a drug company in which you are an investor. And still another $1.1 million in speaking fees was given to you for speeches that you never gave. Now, you and your attorney stated that you repaid the speaking payments, but not the others. And additionally, the state of Mississippi is pursuing interest on these millions of dollars. Do you plan on repaying these funds to the state of Mississippi so that families in need, who are the beneficiaries of TANF, can receive the benefits that they are due?
Well, first of all, and thank you for your question. I have repaid, and to my knowledge, I am the only person who has repaid any money.
Have you repaid interest on the millions of dollars that were misallocated?
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you. You've come in support of President Trump's campaign, and the Trump abortion ban makes it illegal for a woman to access reproductive health care in the state of Mississippi. The funds you are alleged to have misused are from a program that overwhelmingly serves poverty-stricken single mothers who are some of the women most affected by Trump's radical abortion ban. So tell me, Mr. Favre, do you think it's acceptable to divert critical funding away from disadvantaged women who need it the most?
Well, first of all, I have no knowledge of President Trump's policies in regards to that, and I'm not directly involved.
Well, the question is a simple yes or no. Do you think it's acceptable to divert TANF funds away from women who need it the most? Thank you. So, Mr. Dortch, you were one of the early advocates who called attention to the corruption in Mississippi's TANF program. I just want to know, how do you think families were directly affected by years of bad or negligent actors who misuse those funds?
Well, thank you for the question. Mississippi just has a history of making it hard for people to be able to access benefits that they're entitled to. I think what you see with TANF is a lot of people don't even try. They give up. They don't think that this program is going to assist them. If anything, they think that they could get in trouble by trying to get assistance from this program. And the insane thing about it is we have a state director who says just as much, and he's like, we can't get people to come apply, and he wonders why. And I'm like, you have a history of punishing people if they make any mistake, and the assistance that is available is not enough to really support anyone. So you don't get cash support, you don't get all of these other job support things that you need. They have made it people are really just too afraid to even approach the TANF program.
But if people were able to access TANF funding, and if TANF funding did the things that it was intended to do, how could that make a difference in these families that are struggling to make ends meet?
I think what we've seen, especially with programs in Jackson, the Magnolia Mothers Trust, is that people that get cash assistance, they're able to buy groceries for their families, they're able to buy things for their children, they're able to get the space to breathe, to be able to do things like apply to go to school, look for other jobs. They aren't so pressured in life by trying to make ends meet when they can't make those ends meet. It's too many. There are too many people in our state that are just lacking the resources, and to see that millions are going out the window and not helping anyone, it's really frustrating.
Does it make you angry?
Yes,
Makes me angry too.
For about 6
The
years.
lady's time is expired by 50 seconds.
I yield back the balance of my time.
There was no balance. Mr. Ferguson.
Well, there were many members that went over their time, Mr. Chairman, but I'll accept it.
Not Republicans today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Favre, I'm going to thank you for coming. Unlike my colleague, I'm not mad at you about much, but I am mad that you couldn't stay with the Atlanta Falcons. It would God, what could have been, but beyond that, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you coming, knowing that you were going to get asked some tough questions, because I know you're trying your best to make sure this doesn't happen elsewhere.